Welcome to Art Talk Tuesday. I think this is our eighth Art Talk Tuesday. Let's see. We are going to bring on Dave Lavernia. I have to actually ask how to pronounce his last name. And oh, here we go. He is coming on here. Approved. Explains my non-typical background. We're actually in Florida right now, interviewing Dave, who's from Florida. Hi.
How you doing? Nice to meet you, Andrea.
You too. Thank you so much for just like kind of on a whim, just decide or agreeing to come on here with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. It sounds fun already. We're already having a good time.
Yeah, for
So, by the way,
sure.
you are pronouncing my name correctly. It's Dave Lavernia.
Okay. Lavernia. Okay, awesome.
Yeah. And I go by Dave L, which is just Dave, and then L for Lavernia.
Dave, yeah, because your Instagram is Dave L, and so I've always pronounced you in my head Dave-L for some
hmm
reason, and so I'm like, oh wait, no, it's Dave Lavernia.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
interesting hearing people
Um,
from different backgrounds pronouncing my name. It's either Dave L, Davel, or Devel. So that's the
Does that?
fancy one.
Oh, that
Yeah.
sounds way better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So I was like, just say it's irony or whatever you would say. I'm like, I'm in Florida right now. Where are you exactly in
I'm
Florida?
located in Miami, but I spend most of my
Okay.
time between Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and the Florida Keys. So I have a
Okay.
lot of projects going on in
You were in
all
the Keys
areas.
yesterday.
Yeah, I drove all the way to Key
Yeah.
West from Miami and back in one day, which is not a smart thing to do ever. It's like 3 hours each way.
Yeah.
So, but
Dang. Yeah. Well, dang. Well, we should have just met up, and I like, cause I feel like we're like 45 minutes from each other right now. Like it's like,
yeah. Not far at all.
oh
Not
well.
far at all.
Oh well. Yeah, so I found you through the hashtag Miami artist. So hashtags
Nice.
work. Who knew? For anybody who wants to know. But yeah, so if you would just kind of introduce yourself to people who might not be familiar with you. I'm actually curious too, just to kind of see like where like how you became an artist, maybe like just like your background or really whatever we need to know.
Yeah, sure. So my name is David Lavernia. I go by Dave L. I'm a native Miamian born from Cuban parents, and I've spent pretty much my whole life here in Miami. Right now, it's a really special place to be a full-time artist. Like all my friends that I know that are full-time artists are nonstop busy. And the ones that aren't full-time are quickly becoming that way because there's events and everybody wants an artist because of the monster we created here, Wynwood, which is filled with street art. So if anybody
Yeah.
listening that hasn't heard of Wynwood, go check it out because it's constantly changing. But anyway, I started off actually painting skateboards and surfboards at a little surf shop. And I was just doing my own thing and like trying to pay off student loans. And eventually people started to see the artwork on my own boards and started to commission me. So from that, I kind of created a business, and I was really thankful to the owner that would allow me to actually be on the job as a sales associate trying to sell clothes, but also like, hey, would you like to customize your board today with me? So that helped me a lot. And it was the beginning of social media, like the beginning of Facebook. MySpace was already out, and I was like, yeah, add me on MySpace. So then it kind of just went away. And Facebook started, I'd add everybody. So that was one way I started to become a full-time artist. And another one was from all those people I added from all over the US, I would do art tours throughout the US. Because I mean, becoming a full-time artist, once I left this job, I thought I knew what I was doing. I was like, I got this, mom. And she's like, no, you don't. And she was right. So what I did was I traveled all over the US and I kind of couch surfed at different people's homes I met in the store. And they would connect me with their friends that made like art, and eventually it worked. It was just a really big struggle.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Wow, you just
Yeah.
went for it though, is what you're pretty fearless, it seems like.
Yeah, now I'm more scared because I know what can happen when you do that.
Yeah. Yeah, so sometimes yeah, being young and naive works in our favor sometimes.
Right, it's weird.
So, what do you think the tipping point was that took you from like side hustle to professional or full-time artist? Was it just like taking a leap of faith or?
It was a lot of things, I guess. I get a lot of it was people and how they would react to pieces I would create for them. And like I became addicted to that feeling. Like it made people happy, joyous. That for me, that was a really special thing that I could brighten up someone's day. So I remember wanting to be an art therapist and like paint murals at schools and paint with children at different children's hospitals, foster care systems, all these things. So I actually started doing all that and I was broke. Like I was just had no money and I was just trying to do all these things. I even created a tour called the Art is Love Tour, and eventually people actually started to believe in what I was doing, and now I have a decent amount of collectors and it's going really well. Happy about it.
Good for you. That's so awesome. It's so inspiring too, because there are a lot of people in this group that are just like, just in that starting point too. So I know it's really good for, it's inspiring for me to hear your story. So I'm sure it's inspiring for them too.
Yeah, it's everybody has a different story, which is always interesting.
Yeah, which is why I started this because it's so cool. I just love hearing all your guys' stories. So what makes up your typical work day, and how many hours do you think you physically spend creating art per day?
It's a good question. I once heard this artist, Botero, like this really famous sculptor,
Hmm.
say like if you want to master your craft as an artist, paint 8 hours every day. Treat it like anything that you really want to do, you would have to you'll have to practice, right? So I really took that to the heart, and sometimes I even end up painting 16 hours straight on a mural outside in the Miami heat. But I don't
Yeah.
really think about it. I'm just like so inspired, and I look at this big building. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to start. And eventually, I'm there till like so late, and my wife is like, "You gonna come home ever?" You know. But I guess every day I always start with coffee and sketching or painting. But like, definitely have to do something by hand in the morning while I drink my hot cup of coffee. No matter where I am in the world, like Eddie, like at least 1 hour every morning before I do anything else. It's my routine. And
That's
if
a
not,
good
I feel
tip.
kind of weird every day. If not, I'm like, ah, what if, like have aches? I don't know.
Something's missing. Yes. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool. That's so artsy of you to say. Like, it just I can imagine like that. That's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely agree that the 8 hours a day thing, like it is a job, you know.
Yeah, yeah. If you want to be successful as an artist, you have to put the time in every day. And it's funny when people say like, "Wow, you're living your dream," and I'm like, "Yeah." And then I just stare at them and I'm like, the amount of things I have to do today. Like, let me
Yes.
put this beer down and go home, you know?
Yes, I know.
So
Yeah,
it's really
that
funny
that
when
actually
people,
makes
yeah, sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah. No, you're fine. That's sorry. Like it has a little bit of a lag, so I end up like interrupting you. But that makes me feel better too because I feel like every day I'm like, okay, I have to do this, and then I have to do this proposal, and then I have to do this sketch, and then we have to actually paint, and then yeah. So it makes me
Right,
feel
right,
better
right.
hearing that you're the same way.
It's crazy. And I mean, I do it to myself. Sometimes I just end up saying yes to everything and I get into some holes that I'm like, shouldn't have said yes to like these 9 things because I already have 40 things going on by before the end of the
Right?
month. So it's really important to kind of like when somebody asks you a question as an artist to really think about it. Like, will this make me happy and fulfilled as an artist? So that's
Yeah.
something I'm really trying to do, but I'm still really horrible at.
Yes. I think all of us, yeah, because all of us are
Yeah.
like, we want to say yes to everything, you know.
Yeah. It's exciting,
Um,
but there's only one of us. So
yeah. Lissa says, I do coffee and art too as soon as my kids leave for school. So look at you guys being all
nice.
artsy.
You're awesome.
Yes, Lissa. Let's see. Could you talk us through your painting process? Or maybe just explain to them, to people, what you kind of do to. So, like, you have a really unique painting process, and they look really cool. So, do you
Thank
paint
you.
and then marker, or what is it? I wish people could see
No,
this.
yeah, let me try to grab one of my brushes. They're far away. Never mind.
Yeah. Okay.
So it depends really what I'm working on. I do a lot of large scale murals that are all spray paint. Um, but I use like,
Oh,
your typical like house paint for the backgrounds and like large areas and then details all with spray paint. Um, for my paintings, like this one behind me, let's say this is spray paint with acrylic. And the acrylic I'm using is golden acrylic. But what I do is grab these basically high flow acrylics that are used for airbrushing, painting for calligraphy even, and any paint marker. They're paint marker refills in essence. So the problem I was having with paint markers is after working on a mural or any canvas, the edges aren't sharp anymore. So I started, and you waste a ton of ink because the marker won't release all, like, 150 milliliters of ink that it has. It'll release maybe half of it. So I started popping
Yeah.
them open and grabbing brushes, like fine watercolor brushes, to do all these like tiny details you see in here. It's probably difficult to see,
Yeah.
but um, basically I started doing that, and it just changed my style completely because now I had this fluid art with the brush, and they're long bristle watercolor brushes. So after a while, it's just, this is new, this is exciting. So all my murals are becoming this way as well. So they all match my actual paintings. Um, but yeah, I mean, I do a lot of different work, and it all depends on the client. But now my clients are hiring me for my style. I don't have to like adjust or cater more than like what they want. Like, I want a giraffe, great, and they know my styles. They're like, do a giraffe in your style, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been really great, but it all takes a lot of time, just like you and your art. It's nonstop. I learn every time I paint. I feel if I don't, I kind of switch it up and I see what else I can do, watch some YouTube videos, talk to my friends that are artists. We get together and sketch, and that's a really important thing as an artist to grow, speaking to other artists.
Yeah. Definitely. That's so cool. And I love to hear that too. When they want you to do an animal and they're like, but do it in your style. It's like,
It's
yes,
like, yes, I,
finally.
I won today. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. When I first started with rainbow animals, I was like, this seems kind of silly at first, but I really like it. And now I just today someone called and was like, hey, I think I'd like a longhorn in your rainbow style. And I'm like, yes. Like,
So
yes.
yeah, that style is really cool,
Yeah.
and like the puzzle piece things that you do too are great. It's like it's inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks. Let's see. What is the one thing you don't like to paint without? So is it your what is it?
So it's
That's
either,
okay. Yeah.
yeah, it's either that or certain spray paint caps. But and that was
Okay.
actually like last year, it was still bothering me when I wouldn't have certain spray paint caps. Like, how could I have forgotten it, right? And lately now I just figure it out. And that's kind of what I love about being an artist. Like, if you're at an event doing a live painting and you have a crowd watching you and you don't have the thing that you need, you can't just stop and be like, well, that's, I gotta go home. Sorry, like, you're being paid to be there,
Yeah.
and you want to make the best out of it. So, I mean, what I love to do now is just kind of figure it out. So if I forget something, I'm like, it is what it is. But
Yes.
like, headphones are important sometimes, but I also love talking to people as they walk by when I'm painting a mural. Like certain brushes, that is one thing I definitely cannot live without. My favorite brushes, which are the Princeton Catalyst, that I do have right here.
Okay.
Wooden handle. These are my favorite.
Ooh. What are
They're a
the brushes?
synthetic bristle, so they last a lot longer. They hold their shape basically a lot longer, which is great.
Okay. Hmm. I need to learn to take care of my brushes so I can have one nice ones like that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Um, are there any lessons you've learned the hard way, speaking of not taking care of brushes?
Well, that's one for sure. Yeah, like keeping supplies organized is a really important thing, but also saying yes to everything. Like, that is a huge lesson I've learned. Like, when you say no to certain clients, it's actually a huge yes in my life. You like, and it's all like rainbow animals that you want to do and things like that. So one thing I've been trying to learn more is, like, if I get a feeler that I don't want to do a project, I tell the client no, but I always recommend a friend of mine that's an artist. So it's not like, no, sorry, get out of here. It's like, hey, talk to my buddy, Nate, Ivan, CP, like all these guys that I work with. Um, and that's been a really tough one, and I still catch myself saying yes because I want it all. But It's not
Yeah.
feasible. Like I'm not a robot. Like I have to sleep. I have to actually enjoy life. And this is why I do this, to enjoy my life. So
Yes, it's so nice when you could take like a weekend off. You're like, oh yeah, this is life.
yeah, like sit back, like wow, this is great.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we love painting, but like not every weekend.
Right, right,
Um,
right.
okay. Do you have a favorite past project?
Many. Um,
Okay.
I feel like the more I paint, the more I can relate to my clients better. So it's all really about the client. Like if I have a person that starts off and they're kind of like worried about me and I just like splatter paint on their wall when I start, and then we become like really good friends. We start going out to dinners later on. It's like every project is really important. But I mean, I've done some big ones in the Keys. Started a nonprofit with a couple of friends in the Keys too, to bring more art into the Keys and education about sustainable living and things like that. So there's so many ongoing projects. It's difficult to kind of pinpoint one, but a lot of the work I'm
Yeah.
doing in the Keys, I'm really proud of, and everything here in Miami and Fort Lauderdale. It's when I think back, what's my favorite project? Like what week, what month? Because there are so many. Um,
Right.
and yeah, it keeps getting bigger and better. The more I work on things and the more I collaborate with other artists and other businesses and developers.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, can you tell me more about the thing you're doing in the Keys to like the nonprofit? I'm curious.
Yeah, so it's we called it the Florida Keys Community Center. It's actually three friends of mine, Mike Walsh, Shannon Walsh, and Matthew Sexton. And well, they have a only
Mhm.
plant really great, and we pay each artist a stipend, and basically like it's already starting to make a big name for itself. Everybody in the Keys is talking about it, and they're talking about how we do things and how we're keeping it sustainable, how we don't allow plastic into the park, no single-use plastic. I mean, we won't like stop you and be like, "Hey, let me check your stuff." Like we won't do that either, but like we recommend not bringing like plastic water bottles and plastic cups and things that are just going to get tossed into the ocean basically right after. So we're just trying to educate everybody about changes we can make now so that the future generations can enjoy it like we are, especially somewhere as beautiful as South Florida. I mean, the water is stunning, and like you'll be going for a swim, see dolphins and manatees and sharks and all these beautiful creatures, but it's like in a few decades these things might not be around. So that's the main thing that we're doing, and every artist basically paints something under the same common theme, which is human effects on the environment. So you basically
Yeah.
take that and run with it. Like I don't even ask for sketches. I just ask them to make a statement with their piece and tell me a little story.
That's so cool. That's
Yeah, it's really
awesome.
fun.
Cool. I love to hear all these things. Like we had one guest on too that was doing like a Canvas for Kids project, and like you're doing this, and like I had
Awesome.
no idea until I bring you guys on. Like all we really see is what's on like Instagram a couple times, you know. So
Yeah.
I love hearing this. So
Yeah, and
cool.
that's one thing I need to start doing more of, is like engaging my followers more to tell them what I'm actually doing. It's not just like, hey, I painted something pretty today. It's like, what does it mean? Like doing more things with meaning, not just because like, oh, I love elephants, I'm gonna paint one and make it look so beautiful. It's like, why am I painting that elephant, and what's the reason? So
Yeah,
yeah, it's been a big thing lately.
that is so awesome. That's so
Yeah.
fun to hear. Oh, cool. Let's see. Um, what are your future art plans and goals? What are your upcoming projects that you've got going on?
So I'm working actually with the city of Key West right now, and I'm applying for a few different mural projects. So that looks like it's going well already, and different partnerships with other nonprofits like the Coral Restoration Foundation. They basically have found a way to replant corals that have been dying out over the past few decades. So
Wow.
like places that were barren are now they have like an acre's worth of coral that had completely died out almost. So I'm working on murals for them to kind of like keep that in people's minds, that we need to protect things and not destroy everything. Um, so that's one of the main things I'm doing with them right now. Also, our nonprofit, and I mean, eventually, like running a gallery of my own. That's always been a dream of mine.
Oh, really? So like a
Yeah, and
gallery in Miami or?
maybe it's probably way too expensive, but still, I'd find a way to do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've always wanted to like have my own gallery to like talk to people about work and like not even put my own work up there all the time, like have friends and do group shows and things like that. But also like just continue to engage the community and like in like the most positive ways, and like work with different charities and nonprofits too to build everlasting relationships.
Yeah, that's so cool. Look at you. Go you. Yeah, we should.
Yeah, it's
There's all.
fun.
I mean, there's so many ways that the arts can be just brought into community projects, and then art as therapy. Like, there's just so many things that, and like, it's so sad because like, you know how, so we called it STEAM, science, technology, oh man, or science something, English, art, mathematics.
Matt. Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
guys
I know
have
what you're
that?
talking about. Yeah,
It's called like some people call it STEM now, and it's like so they call it STEM. They took out the art, and I was like, what?
unbelievable.
Art can do, yeah, art
And the
can do
art is
so
so
many amazing
important.
things.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, like I do like paint and sip classes for adults, and I
Yeah.
realize how like therapeutic it is for them. Like the person that talks the most and jokes around the most is the most focused later. You're like, you don't even hear a peep from them after a while, and you're like, you needed that. And it's interesting, like
Yeah.
making it available for people, and especially at a younger age. Like so many people talk to me and they're like, "Oh man, I used to do art. I used to love drawing from like comic books or Calvin and Hobbes and different things like that." I'm like, "Oh, Calvin and Hobbes, I love that," you know. And it's just it's an important part of development, in my opinion, to be able to just create and not have somebody tell you exactly how to do that.
Yeah.
It'll like
Exactly.
enhance your like critical thinking at a young age. Like when I first started doing these cutouts, I was like, easy, let me get a saw. I was just like hand sawing, and I'm like, this isn't working, you know. And like simple things like
Yeah.
that. I'm like, oh, let me get a jigsaw, perfect, like done. So things like that, like I mean, I remember like my woodshop classes or like other things that I had opportunities to get more creative, and you know that's always really helpful.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Thomas mentioned you guys STEAM is science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. So, and then
You're
STEM
the
came about
man.
because they are cutting yeah, he's on it. And he said STEM came about because they are cutting the education budgets nationwide. So
Hmm.
sad.
It is really sad. That's actually one
Ugh,
reason why I started painting murals at local public schools in Miami. They had like, I mean, this is probably 7 or 8 years ago when they really started to cut costs on everything, and the first thing to go was art. So I would do
yeah.
paint by numbers murals with children, and I would just donate my time. And after a while, it like everybody wanted me at their school, and I just started sending friends of mine that were artists too, and we just painted everything. It was really fun. And
Aw,
now like graffiti artists from all over the world come to paint schools in Miami. It's really cool.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you guys have Winwood too. Like, so do they paint over stuff in
all the time.
Winwood? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a constantly evolving thing.
Yeah, I mean, I call it a living organism because it's like I can't tell you where to go and like meet somebody or meet with me by saying, "Oh, meet me at this like eagle mural." It's like, which one? There's a ballerina here now. And it's, it all depends on who's running the business. Like or the developers that are like, hey, we just bought this building, we want new art, we don't want this, whatever, and like that happens too. Or like a big liquor company or soft drink company will come, like Mountain Dew has done it a lot in Wynwood, that they'll pay the landlord, you know, $5,000 to $10,000 just to have an artist come in and paint a logo of theirs. So it's
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Yeah. Thomas says, "You the man, David." Virtual fist bump.
Fist bump. You the man.
Yeah. Is there any advice you would give to artists who want to make art their full-time career but just don't know where to start? Like, where's a good starting point?
Um, the best starting point is to just soak it all in. Like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like, if you have a job that pays the bills, stay with that job and work on your art all the time. Like, you have to put the same amount of time in, which is really difficult. You might lose sleep, but eventually what will happen is you'll get enough clients in your art career to take so that your business takes care of itself. My problem was I left my job and I was like, I have 2 months of commissions. This is awesome. I've never had that many commissions. And after those 2 months, nothing happened. I made like no money 1 month basically. And I was like, all right, I'm freaking out. Luckily, I have a family and they were like really awesome with me. But
Yeah.
if I didn't have that, I mean, I would have had to go work anywhere. And like, that's one thing I tell every entrepreneur, like even people that don't do art, like if you really want to make a successful business, you have to have the capital. So you have to keep working your job, keep that side hustle until it becomes your real hustle, and like it gets so busy that you can't even work your other job. Then still work it part-time, just because things go up and down in the art world, obviously, and eventually like you can leave that job. And I mean, I'm happier than ever now, but there were many years of incomplete projects and things like that because I didn't have the capital to. So that's a really important thing. Like, take it slow and treat every customer the way you'd like to be treated every time, even if they're the worst. Like, still treat them well, and you'll see like how well they'll speak of you and like refer you and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, your customer is like your main thing. Yeah, because yeah, I get so many customers that are just from other customers. That's just such a huge
Yeah, it's
thing.
awesome.
Okay, that is it. Is there anything else you would like to add? If anybody has any questions, let me know. But that is all the questions. Thank you. Or yeah, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, well, thank you for having me on the show. This has
Yeah.
been really fun and exciting. I learned a little today
Yeah.
about myself too, so this is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, like what? That you could go live on a whim?
Yeah, I could go live on a whim. No, just like like being able to tell people about like how to start off as a full-time artist. It's not just like, all right, let me just do this. It's there's no written book about this. Like, there's no classes. I mean, there are art classes and they have business classes and things like that, which are super helpful. But that, like, being a full-time like street artist like myself, like everybody's like, what, you like live off painting buildings? Like, that's so weird. But it really works, and it's great. So I mean, to everybody out there, like, you can do it. Just do it right.
Yeah, very well said. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your night to do this interview. This is also going to be in podcast form. We just started the whole podcast thing, which I'll talk to you. You said you mentioned you wanted to start your own yeah, I think we need more
Yeah,
art podcasts
absolutely.
out there. Yeah.
100%. Well, thank you
Yeah,
so
so
much for having me.
yeah, no problem. Have a good night. Thank you again.
You
Bye.
too. Take care, everybody. Bye.